again, thank you for coming tonight. We're running a little late because I literally came in with 1, 2, 3, 4 suitcases of gear, which is unusual, it's excessive. But one of the things I really wanted to do was sculpt a full sound and then be able to explain how that sound was created. One of the things that I really struggled with when I first got into synthesizers was I started with a Novation bass station. I got it in 1995, 96, the old, it was just pretty much a toy. And I played it and it sounded like a toy. You know, I didn't know how to shape a sound, I didn't know how to create something that was rich or complex. And I guess it's taken 20 plus years to get a good sound. So if you're into things, stick with it, it pays off. And one of the things that's really important about these is that we're recording because this is an educational forum. And so we want to be able to record what we're doing, and then we'll post it on YouTube so people who aren't in this room can also learn how to better use synthesizers. Tonight we'll start with Dan. He works here at CSPS, and he will be using MicroBrute. And we just need to move this camera so we can get a good shot of this. He has a spectrum analyzer, oscilloscope.
All right, well, I'm so happy that you guys all made it here tonight. I'm sure there's all sorts of skill levels here, people that are just curious. This here is a MicroBrute. It's a very entry-level analog synthesizer. So what that means is there's no computers in it. It's all just circuits and electricity running through. It's pretty basic, but it's incredibly versatile for how little knobs it has. Kind of an introduction to synthesis. Most common synthesis is subtractive synthesis. So you're starting with a waveform and taking out harmonics. This has 3 different waveforms. It has a sawtooth wave, which you can see saw-shaped, and you kind of hear it's got a little buzz to it. This second waveform it has is a square wave, which you can see there is square-shaped. We also have a triangle wave, which is close to a sine wave, which is just a pure tone, no harmonics. That's where you would look at the frequency analyzer. You see one major peak, that's the main note you're hearing. You see these smaller peaks going off, and so each wave has its own profile. The square wave you can see has a lot more. So that's basically the building block of sound, is your starting wave. What we do there is we subtract from it with a filter. And so what would happen here is, let's do a square wave, which is harmonically rich. We'll roll the filter off and you'll see, you can hear it kind of, it's like a wah-wah sound you would make with your mouth. And what you're actually doing is taking off these extra frequencies. And you can also see it goes from a square wave and you start to lose that square shape. That looks like a shark fin. So that's kind of a filter. What we also have with the filter is resonance. So resonance is basically how much of it is, you can think of it feeding back into itself. And so we'll see some interesting things happen when we add resonance. That gets pretty wild, but you can see what started out as like a simple square wave now all of a sudden starts to have a lot more waveform complexity in it. So that's that. Another cool part about synthesizers is the modular aspect of it, so you can control different aspects through patch bays. So what I have here is what's called a LFO, low frequency oscillator, and I can send that low frequency to control different aspects of the wave. So right now I have the LFO controlling pulse width. So what you'll see on here, we up the rate, the amount, maybe. Another aspect that we can control with the LFO that's pretty common is the filter, which I showed you earlier how that shapes the sound. Hold on here. Where are we getting? I think my batch cables. So that's kind of that dubstep sound that you'll hear a lot with the bass. So you can see it go from that square shape to the rounded edges, and then you can control the rate of that. The other aspect that's pretty fun to control is pitch of the actual note you're playing. That can get crazy. That's how you get kind of some like laser sounds going. So we could do. So you can see the actual frequencies changing there. And yeah, so this one just has basically 3 things to control. There's the pulse width going there. The other aspect I really like is the sequencer. So for the longest time, people had to play arpeggios with their hands, which would basically be a sequence of 3 notes. With this, what I can do is I can record any 3 notes I want. And then those are saved now, and it'll play in that interval of whichever key I press. So it should start ascending. We can control the rate. There's different patterns of those 3 notes. And then we can start. Yeah, so that's basically the run through of the MicroBrute. There's obviously a lot more to get into, envelopes and stuff, but that's just kind of a basic introduction to how synthesis works. Yeah, I think I'll hand it over to Jason.
Great. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
How about a round of applause for Dan?
Yeah.